Survivors gather to remember those killed in the line of duty. We'll hear from some of them in this half hour.
High school students execute a drunk driving scene before hundreds of classmates. We'll have the details.
I'm Carrie Crotty.
And I'm Lon Bakey. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Your Police Report. May is the time designated across the country to remember the men and women killed in the line of duty.
Here in Ramsey County, officers and survivors gathered to remember those we've lost in our own departments.
Mike Duzon said, who was a nephew of Joe's and also a police officer, said, "My Uncle Joe's death doesn't make him a hero. His life makes him a hero." Today we gather to honor Sergeant Bergeron and his ultimate sacrifice.
Every time I come to this memorial, I have to chuckle a little bit because it shows Joe with his tie properly affixed to his collar, and I don't know if I've ever seen him with his top button buttoned and the tie where it's supposed to be.
Maplewood Police Department, Joseph Bergeron, end of watch, May 1, 2010.
Everyone loved Joe. Joe was the kind of person that everyone wanted to sit next to. He wasn't a class person. He didn't care how rich or how poor. He was just that kind of person that liked to help people.
We're here supporting the family and remembering Joe, what he stood for, and what kind of a guy he was.
Slid on some very slippery road and hit a big boulder when he went off the road, and the steering wheel crushed his chest. That's how he ended his watch.
It was tough growing up without a dad because, other kids that we played with and whatnot all, went to school with and buddies in school time, they had their parents and they were hunting or fishing or going to a cabin or whatever, well, we didn't have that.
We're not all cut out to be law enforcement, but those that are special.
We have a lot of policemen in our family, and maybe in a selfish way, I don't want anyone to be forgotten. And it's important to pray for those policemen who are out there every day putting their life on the line. And so when tragedy happens, you just don't want people to forget any of them.
City officials gathered as well to pay tribute. Among them, Maplewood Mayor Nora Slowick.
She joined us to talk about the department as well as other city issues. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thank
now,
you.
I know you were at the memorial for Sergeant Bergeron.
Yes.
Why is that important to have that every year?
Well, I think it's really important that people remember. I remember that where I was that day, I was at Transfiguration Church taking a CPR class with my daughter's Girl Scout troop, and Representative Leon Lilly called. We were both in the legislature and called and said the officer's been shot in Maplewood. And I think that the sacrifices that officers make, we all need to be reminded about that, and also to Sergeant Bergeron's family, it's important, to remember that that he paid the ultimate sacrifice.
That he did. Well, speaking of the legislature, you spent 20 years in the legislature. How does being a legislator compare to being a city mayor?
Well, I actually served about 7 terms, and it was very interesting. You know, the legislature has a very wild schedule that's very unpredictable, so I'm glad to be done with that. Mayor's a little more predictable. It's also really fun being a mayor. You know, there's lots of events and things to go to where people want to have the mayor there.
Sure.
Also, we're problem solving here on a different level, so I get the calls about the potholes and, you know, those types of things,
Yeah.
so different kinds of problems. I like them both. I think it was great to be a state representative, but I'm enjoying being mayor as well.
Good.
Now, I know the City Council supports the police department in many ways. Can you give us some examples of that?
Right. Well, we had our city council retreat with the staff, and Chief Schnell was there. And some of the things that the council supports are the department's policing goals and the plan direction. So we really support the renewed emphasis on problem solving. You know, I have a couple situations going on with that. For example, we have some crime going on down in South Maplewood, and so the chief came out and we did a neighborhood meeting and talked about all those things you're supposed to be doing, whether it's locking your doors and make sure you have curtains on all your garage windows, those types of things. To problem solving in other kinds of situations, you know, we have, I'm sure you both know about the basketball hoop situation at a couple of our parks. So working through that and not just thinking this is the answer, that's the answer, but really doing that problem solving. Also the increased use of crime tools and technology. You know, it was kind of a trend when I left the legislature to use analytics, and I think you're using analytics, right?
Well, we're moving in that direction.
Yeah, it's so kind of where is the crime, right? How much time are you spending on that? Where is it all happening? I know the mall can be a big issue, right? Yeah, and don't we have 2 officers there now?
Yes,
right.
and Lon and I are both former mall cops, if you
Ah.
will. So
Well, that's really important, you know. Maplewood
busy
Mall's a
job.
big deal to all of us, and I think having a police presence there helps both the retailers and helps the people that come there.
Yep.
So those are some of the kinds of things. I think also looking at innovation, sort of new, creative, and collaborative ways to make really what we have is a safe Maplewood, but to help make us even safer. So we as a council want to be here to support you all.
well, thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yes, very much so. Now, there's a new initiative called the Integrative Youth Development. Can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. At my background at the legislature, I worked on youth issues and specifically early childhood, but I've always been very interested in this issue. And we find with youth in our area that we want to improve their outcomes, right? So there are kids getting in trouble after school. You know, I have a teenager, I have a young adult. We know that sometimes our teenagers, young adults aren't making the best choices.
Right.
So this is a program that can help improve the outcomes for kids. So it's taking where you take each student and you have 5 adults in their life. So maybe police officer, teacher, preacher, it could be neighbor, those types of things. But having 5 people that will support that youth, and then around certain specific things. So this support is better predictor of school performance than things like socioeconomic status, race or ethnicity, gender, or family composition. And research shows that actually 60% or less of kids have those 5 people.
Right.
You know, it's funny when they get to be teens, you know, there's this on the radio the other day I heard, you know, when do girls, you know, kind of turn into that very difficult stage, they kind of stop talking to their parents in a lot of ways. So being able to have those support systems. So we hope to move into this, and some of the things that the way it works is there's strings that represent sort of that web of support,
Sure.
And working on different goals for kids in terms of whether the color means, you know, positive, you know, celebrating achievement, providing opportunities, filtering out negative around them, those types of things.
Sure.
So we're hoping, you know, we'd be the first city in Minnesota to do this. There's been a couple of, I think Chicago, maybe one other state has done it, but we have the opportunity for a very large federal grant on this.
Oh, wow.
And as you guys, you know, we're a first-tier suburb, so we look a lot more like St. Paul these days than, you know, maybe Woodbury or Oakdale, and so our kids need that extra support. So we're hoping with these grants and with we're working with the school district that we can get this funding and really help us become a stronger community. Also, you know, from the geography, we have South Maplewood all the way up to the mall. and that we don't feel much like a community. I mean, I hear that
Right.
from the neighbors, right?
We don't
So-
have the downtown.
Yeah, there isn't a downtown. So the integrated youth development, if we got everybody working around kids and having those 5 people in their life, it could be really exciting. I think we'd all feel a lot more like a community.
Sure, sure.
And you mentioned South Maplewood, so I have to ask the question, we're getting a substation in the
Yeah.
south part of Maplewood. Can you explain what that's about and why we're doing it?
Well, I think it's really exciting. You know, when people think of public safety, they obviously want to feel as safe as possible. And when I was out talking to people, one of the things is they worry about their personal sort of health concerns, because they know it's going to be part of the fire station too, whether it be the trained paramedics. So, and then they also want, if there is an issue, right, where they're going to call 911, they want someone to be there. So by having that substation, it'll be on the new 3M campus, which is going to be great, and we had a groundbreaking for the substation. We're going to have that presence more for the South Maplewood folks, and that's that strip between, you know, McKnight Century, goes all the way south down to the ski jump. Sometimes people down there don't feel as much a part of the city, so I think that substation's going to help a lot. And that also that people will call 911 and they will expect the police to be there in a short amount of time, which I know you are. You know what, Chief Schnell and Chief Lucan tell me, you know, whether it's the fire folks or the police officers, that your response times are very good.
Yeah. Speaking of our department, we just recently did some hiring, and we've also had some awards given out recently. Can you speak to those a little bit?
Well, congratulations. I mean, first thing, with the 5 officers that were hired means you're up to being fully staffed.
Yep.
So I think we as residents and the council are very excited about that. And then we were pleased to have a presentation the other night. We had Officer Clint Abel and Jason Marino, who received life-saving awards. A lot of people may have seen this on TV or on YouTube, and they pulled a person out of a burning vehicle, right?
Yep.
And so literally saved their life. So it was a big deal. We had both the families there, and being able to present them with their awards. I think that's probably, you know, you've been in police service a long time now, 18 years, right, for both of you?
Yep.
That's a huge thing.
It is. It's huge.
And we were also really happy about Detective Alicia Metry. Is it Metry or
Metry.
Metry.
Yep.
Was recently named the Minnesota Association of Women Police Officer of the Year, which is an incredible honor.
Yes, it is.
That was up
Statewide.
in statewide. So here in Maplewood, you know, I think again that's a really big honor for us. Shows the strength of the police department, the good work that's happening. So we're really happy about that.
Yeah, we're really proud of all 3 of them also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention for the gentleman that was saved that day,
Yeah.
it was real nice to see they did some interviews with him, and his gratitude that he showed was real nice to see. I mean, unfortunately in our line sometimes we do things and they're never recognized. This guy is very appreciative, and he was very outward about it. So
Excellent.
I was very happy to see that.
Yeah, I think you all probably aren't appreciated enough. I'm going to be going on a ride along, right?
Yep.
And so you're going to see firsthand the very difficult work I think the police are challenged with, that most citizens don't realize.
Right.
The types of situations you get in, that your life is on the line, and the type of problems and issues that people come to you with, I think are very complicated these days. And so we really appreciate your good service.
Well, and we appreciate you coming on the show
Sure.
today.
You're
Unfortunately,
Thank
we're
you
out of
so
time.
much. We are.
But thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
We're going to take a break, but first,
Here's Nick Kreckler with the Maplewood Community Minute.
The thought of getting on our bikes on a sunny summer day is what gets many of us through the winter. But first, we need to make sure that we're practicing safe cycling. First and foremost, you should wear a helmet that fits properly, and the strap should always be fastened. Your bike should also be the right size for you and have working brakes and enough air in its tires. Wearing bright colors and putting reflectors on your bike will help people see you. Make sure you're not wearing anything that will get caught in your bike chain, like loose pant legs, backpack straps, or shoelaces. Avoid wearing headphones that can distract you from hearing noises around you like car horns. Always ride with your hands on the handlebars. Always stop and check traffic in both directions at intersections. Ride on the right-hand side of the street so you can travel in the same direction as cars. Never ride against traffic. Use bike lanes whenever you can. Don't ride too close to parked cars. Doors can open suddenly. Stop at all stop signs and obey traffic lights. Finally, make sure you know and use proper hand signals. Don't ruin your biking fun by getting hurt or hurting someone else. Take the time to learn the rules of the road and you'll be riding right. I'm Nick Kreckler, and I'll see you next time.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education. So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
You can be a reader, tutor, or mentor too. Take the pledge at liveunited.org/volunteer.
Do you wear this?
High school prom marks the beginning of the 100 deadliest days for teenage drivers.
Students from Hill Murray performed a graphic portrayal of what can happen if you drink and drive.
It's not very often you actually get to be involved in something this important, like in high school, you know? Right. It's not just handing out a flyer. We actually experienced it for them, and I thought that was cool.
Lunch needs medics right away.
Our prom is this Friday, and we haven't done mock crash in 6 years, and the idea is kind of just to illustrate to the students all of us, the really real dangers of drunk driving.
Plain and demonstrate, all right? He's a .16. Which will also result
really trying to make it as real as possible. We're having our real classmates, not just some random actors doing this. And so I think when they see what the ramifications are of drinking and driving, I think it will really hit close to home. I really hope that they see this and say, wow, I don't want to be that kid. I don't want to put my friends in that situation or your parents.
Burns Avenue.
Okay, in St. Paul?
Yeah.
Okay. Did she live with her mom or dad? Okay.
156.
At one point, the police officers gave me a cell phone to call my parents on, and that was probably the most surreal moment for me because I'm super close with my parents, and just knowing that I was about to have to explain something this serious to them. Like, I know it was a fake call, but for some reason I didn't even know how to start it once they gave me the phone. It was really scary.
I hope that they realize more than ever now just the impact of drunk driving and what it could do. It's really a huge, serious issue that I hope they kind of now have a better understanding of what it might look like.
Scott Smiley knows firsthand what it's like to live with killing someone while driving drunk.
He joins us to share his story and warn people against the dangers. Welcome, Scott.
Welcome, Scott. Can you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
I've lived in Minnesota all my life. I was born and raised in Minnetonka and have stayed pretty close to that area. You know, I work as a painter, have for, gosh, ever since high school. So.
Well, tell us what happened the day that you killed a 16-year-old girl.
I was working in a townhome out in Woodbury, and I had taken some alcohol with me, you know, that I intended to consume while I was working. And came the end of the day, my boss stopped by, asked me what was going on. He knew I had been drinking, and asked me to gather my things and leave. So I put my stuff in my truck, and while while I was doing that, I was thinking, you know, I've drank at work before. It's not uncommon in construction. Back when I first started, it was very common, you know. And I thought, well, what had I done different that day that I got caught, you know? And while I was doing so, I was thinking too, well, you know, if I'm that high, perhaps I should call a cab or, you know, take a bus or call my wife or somebody to give me a ride home.
Sure.
But it was Halloween day, and my daughter was waiting for me to come home and take her out trick-or-treating.
Okay.
So, you know, I made the dumbest decision in my life, was to hop in my truck and drive home.
Sure.
And I only got about a mile from the job site when I approached intersection with four-way stop signs.
Okay.
And, you know, to this day, I don't know why I was totally unaware of my surroundings. I didn't see that sign till the last minute. And when I slammed on the brakes, it was too little too late, and I hit the car.
And the girl was driving the car?
Well, there's three young girls in the car. Miss
Okay.
Brown was driving. Miss Strutz, a 12-year-old girl in the back seat, they were taking her to swimming lessons.
Okay.
And then Irene was a passenger in the front seat.
And where did you hit? Was it a T-bone type hit, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I couldn't have centered it better on the doors had I tried, you know.
Sure.
And it, you know, that's, when I reflect back on things, you know, everything had to work out just the way it was. And somewhere in the back of my head, I believed that, you know, these drunk driving crashes, this sort of thing isn't going to happen to me.
Right.
You know. And I think even when I was younger, it was even more so that way. You know, you kind of don't have life experience, perhaps, or I'm not sure what it is. But we figure we're invincible,
Yeah.
and these bad things will never happen to us, let alone I'm going to do something that's going to change many people's lives. I had never expected that, and, you know,
Yep.
and I think that's what gave me the casual nonchalantness about drinking and driving.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
How did your life change after the accident?
Well, you know, sometimes I like to say, you know, my life is better now than it was before, due to the people that I meet, like you folks, the opportunities that I've had. But, you know, for sure, if I could have changed that day, I certainly would have, you know.
If you can leave our teenage viewer or any of our viewers with some advice when it comes to choices, whether it be drinking and driving or many other choices they'll be making, what advice would that be?
Well, to believe that it won't happen to you is probably the most, these things happen to people that are totally unexpected. You know, we watch television, we see these, you know, high-speed chases and all this other stuff on TV. And yes, those things can be prevented, you know. But our culture, you know, the messages we get on television from commercials or programming, that, hey, just live your life, do what you want. It's not that way. You know, there's so many things. I never refer to the crash as an accident because it was a crash and it was preventable. Had I not drank that day, I probably wouldn't have hit that car.
Sure.
Had I been more in touch with what I was doing, you know, I'm thinking about how to tell my wife I got fired.
Sure.
Plus drinking, you know. So you're throwing text messaging and all the other things, distractions in a car you have now. We need to be more serious about these vehicles we drive. You know, a car weighs 4,000 pounds, and I speak at impact panels for Minnesota for Safe Driving, and I often will suggest that, hey, a dentist drill only weighs 2.5 pounds. Would you want that dentist to be high when he's grinding on your teeth? Absolutely not. You know.
Yeah.
But we'll drive a 4,000-pound car. You know, I lost a lot of friends when I was in high school. I lost, 5 friends that I was pretty close with in high school to drinking and driving crashes.
Yep.
And back then we said, well, you know, bad things happen to good people because these things were happening everywhere all the time. You know, and it doesn't have to be that way. You just make one choice.
You're right.
If you're going to drink, if you're going to use, and we're not against that, it's just do it responsible. choose not to drive.
It takes a lot of courage for you to come here, and I want to thank you very much for stopping in.
Glad to do it.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return,
we'll tell you how a widow and a car inspired a network of volunteers.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
welcome back. Christine Crittenden has been dealing with the murder of her husband, North St. Paul officer Richard Crittenden, since he was killed in 2009.
She says part of her healing process has been helping other law enforcement families in need, and she's done that with the help of her extended law enforcement family. Take a look.
We're always there to support one another in whatever cause. It's kind of personal to us.
It's been nearly 5 years since North St. Paul police officer Richard Crittenden was killed in the line of duty. But a tight-knit community is remembering him while helping other families in need.
I've heard a lot of, stories about my husband as far as, and I called Rick, he did this, or, I remember him from here. So that's also a healing process. And I feel that in helping other people, you do heal yourself.
Christine Crittenden bought her husband's squad car after his death and wondering what to do with it, happened to cross paths with a retired officer looking for a way to give back.
I was all primed and ready to do something. I didn't know what. And then she had this vehicle that she was trying to figure out what to do with. So that's how it was all created.
The Thin Blue Line Memorial vehicle honors Richard and all Minnesota officers killed in the line of duty. Christine travels with the car, bringing awareness to dangers officers face every day. Although people have generously donated their time and resources, there's still out-of-pocket expenses. The first fundraiser for the Thin Blue Line Memorial vehicle will not only support costs of the car, but also extends additional help through a new program, Helping Hands. Ron Kanoki, owner of Advanced Graphics in Vadnais Heights, donated his services to design and wrap both the memorial vehicle and the Helping Hands bus. He says it's the least he can do for Christine.
We're very family orientated, and for what happened to her and her family, I couldn't imagine if that happened to my family. And the bottom line is, even some of my competition, once tragedy happens, they're trying to profit off of that. That's not what we're all about.
Nearly every table at the fundraiser was occupied by a law enforcement group or nonprofit, a reminder that this community shares in both victories and tragedies.
The whole process has been bittersweet. It started with Rick's death, and I deal with that every day, every moment.
For more information on the Thin Blue Line Memorial vehicle or how you can help, log on to the website. That's all the time we have for this month's show. I'm Lon Bakey.
And I'm Carrie Karate. We'll see you next time.